on our Top Engineering Cultures podcast, where we're talking about product, tech leadership, and the ways teams build and scale and build good software. Today, I'm joined by Dori. Dori, if you could introduce yourself,
Yeah, I'm Dori. Well,
tell us about your background.
yeah, sure, sure. I'm basically Israel born and raised. I'm very like high level, call it resume. So served in the military for 5.5 years. I studied business management, accounting, and law. And worked in investment banking, Citigroup, and Morgan Stanley. 3+ years in London as well. Um, Came
This was all prior to coming to the US.
Correct. That was like part of it. So our 3 years stint in London in Citigroup, and then I went back to Israel. I started a company called The Vets, which is provides home pet care. It's basically sending veterinarians in cars to people's homes to take care of their pets. The clinic experience is a very negative one, and we sort of solved that. Um, and after starting it from Israel, I moved to the US. This was 4 years ago. Um, 3 years, 3 years I did basically, we did it in New Jersey. We lived in New Jersey. I'm married +2. And company expanded, grew. It's a fantastic company, fantastic service. Um, and a year ago, I moved to California.
Which is obviously better than New Jersey, right?
Lovely. Like in so many ways. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, that's sort of my background as a founder and starting company from scratch. You do like product, tech,
Hmm.
HR, finance, operations, and recruitment. I mean, you name it. Also, specifically, it's like medical. So there's also like understanding US regulations and
Do you have a medical background?
no, I do not have a medical background.
Nice.
I think that by now, like 30% of the knowledge of a common veterinarian, I would say. And I mean, I wouldn't do a surgery, but I'm okay to answer a few questions about several topics.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's sort of
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. How do you, you're a fresh Californian then. When I went to Tel Aviv recently, it reminded me a lot of LA and the startup scene there. I've traveled quite a lot, and I would say it's the only one similar in culture to the US. Would you agree with that?
Aviv.
The startup culture
The startup.
in Israel. Yes, sorry.
I'm actually not the right person to, because I'm not tech background, and kind of quickly after starting the company, I moved to the US. So I wasn't really immersed in the Tel Aviv tech vibe scene, call it. But generally speaking, the word is that yes, it's very vibrant, dynamic, creative, flexible, whatever you want to call it, startup nation. And I think it's true. I think it's true. There are smart people, very energetic, and these things that they kind of feed each other. It's there, and people think that it's there, and then it breeds it, and then it just you know.
Self-reinforcing.
Yeah, if you believe in something, something changes the actual results of what's happening. So,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it,
I mean, maybe you don't have a tech background, but you did start a company, so that is kind of startup vibes.
correct. Look, I think that
Yeah,
there's a big difference between knowing how to play a violin and to be able to orchestra.
correct. A concerto or something.
You don't need to know to write a single line of code in order to lead or to give guidelines about how product should be built or what's your view. You need to understand concepts and fundamentals, and apart from that, especially today, if specifically writing the code is becoming, or tech in general, the build becoming a not a hurdle.
It's like a known unknown. You have to do the work, but we're not doing anything crazy anymore, really, for a lot of software.
Correct. I'm also specifically talking about this transformational period of AI where the code kind of writes
Hmm.
itself in a way. And,
Hmm.
but 2 3 years ago, it was a lot of process about like you have an idea, now okay, that's built by the tech with all the costs and time associated. Today, the ability to build an MVP is super quick. Iterations are super fast. You have to,
Last
yeah,
last night I was trying to communicate an idea and they were having trouble understanding me and I coded something with AI in 30 minutes.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And then they were like, "Oh, I get it."
Yeah, yeah. It's very
Interesting.
interesting. It's interesting to say that we are recording this in May 2025.
Yeah. Let's see in a year.
There's a certain number of months here before the X months, the rise of the machines. I would say like I mean, it's a bit of, I don't know if it's apocalyptic, and I don't think I'm the only person who's saying that. In a couple of years, there'll be a tremendous amount of people that were very valuable 2 years ago, and now it's a problem because the code is becoming irrelevant. A lot of the design is becoming irrelevant in terms of the label.
You don't wonder if maybe it's a bit like Excel or like Photoshop or something where one designer can do 10 times as much work and instead of hiring 10 times less designers, we do 100 times more work. Do you track that? I do see your point of view where it could potentially take a ton of jobs, but I also wonder maybe it won't.
No, I think at the end of the day, it will. It will take. It will take I, look, I think at the end of the day, just like a lot of things, you will when they become so sort of easy to do, you will be left with the top 5%, top 10% people that can actually uh, manage a team instead of or manage a team of like AIs, agents, instead of managing a team of people. I mean,
So it becomes more about like leadership essentially.
yeah, leadership. Again, it's like this orchestra, maybe metaphor. It's
Hmm.
depending how to how.
I like that visualization, like with the AIs.
Yeah, yeah. There's like
Yeah.
you also metaphors from the more military, but like, you don't have to be the sniper in order to blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So yeah, 100%. It will change. It's only changing, right? But it's always like the case where the actual companies, organization, governments, they takes a lot of time to adapt. Like this, you can tell their capabilities and skills and the ability to influence workflows is already here. Individuals that are focused on it can actually utilize it, but it takes organizations a lot of time to adapt. Some are quicker, and in some places it's much easier. I can say like the immediate thing that you could see, like customer support, is being significant. You have announcement of Meta, of Google, 20, 30% of the code is already written by AI. So these things are happening.
Yeah.
But it's a big
What
decision.
about within the vets, your company?
Um, again, implementation it takes time. Specifically,
Uh-huh.
there are very not very, but companies that are in other companies that are service focused, and the tech is important. But at the end of the day, the product is health, right? It's doctor,
Right.
it's things like
The concierge doctor service is the
right.
product. No.
That
Yeah.
it's not a SaaS company, right? It's
Right.
not this company. It's important to say, by the way, that I'm out of the vets for the past year plus, right? But
Okay.
there,
Yeah, yeah.
it's in the early years for sure, but what's happening specifically in the details, the past year plus is I can't really
Yeah.
get into the stories.
And when you guys were building the company from the start, what how did you approach like the service versus the software part? Like, was there a lot of software that you ended up building yourself? Did you use stuff off the shelf to kind of coordinate vets going to homes? Or tell me more about that.
So generally speaking, I would say that you wanna whatever you're doing, you wanna empower the business wherever you can implement technology, and wherever you can take off-the-shelf solutions, you want to do that. But wherever it doesn't exist or doesn't fit well, and you think there is a lot of potential in building something in this like buy versus build dilemma, then you want to build it your own. Uh, with events, it made a lot of sense to do that and to build something that facilitates. Also, this company is very innovative in terms of doing something that didn't exist at scale. So a lot of you have to be very focused on how you provide solutions that are correct at scale. This is like a home pet care company, people driving around. There's routing, there's scheduling, there's optimization
Right.
around that world.
It's essentially Uber, basically, like the back end Uber, like matching, sending, driving, all that kind of problems that
I mean, it has a few similar problems. I would say, and a few similar solutions. Yeah, I mean, generally you could say that there's
it
a thing that don't necessarily.
yeah. Is your tech team in Israel? Is it in house, out of house?
Detecting of the vets.
Of the vets, sorry, yes. And then I
So
want to hear what you're working on now.
historically, yes, historically it was in Israel. Yes, I mean, again, I'm not a part of it
Sure. Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
That's field.
What are you working on now? Retirement?
Yeah, which I'm sort of 50% of my time I'm spending working with startup founders, CEOs, and doing advisory, and that start with strategy and data strategy, which I find is a big problem with founders because you have a lot of these situations where you have, and you have these individuals that are entrepreneur and they want to do great stuff, and then they have a deep understanding of the product and the mission, but there is a huge gap in terms of the financials. There's a huge gap in generally in data. Either they're measuring stuff wrong or you're not measuring specific things. So it always starts, by the way, with the financials, and then you reveal a huge
Hmm.
amount of other stuff, KPIs that should be measured. I mean, generally, you have the data layer, which is more like the facts, and then you have some sort of a knowledge layer, which is like the relationship between the data. And then once you have that and it's a sort of solid, you have like an insight layer, which tells you, um, how the company should look, or what the company should be focused on. So there's a lot of that. I would say 50% of my time, that's what I'm doing. And the other 50% of that, I'm doing my own different ventures. Again, it's been a year plus, and I'm looking at a lot of interesting things. A bit of digital products, a bit of ventures in the world of ski, a bit of healthcare, also advising companies in the world of veterinary services, some in Europe, in Australia, um, whatever I can, trying to keep busy, trying to keep,
Yeah.
and trying to, also expand my horizons in terms of what's next. I think veterinary services is a super interesting market. There's a lot to do. Um, but there's also, again, this is a very transformational period in terms of AI. I'm trying to think always about what's next for me. It has to be either something that's strongly AI focused or something that AI cannot touch.
Like land.
Yeah, like things
Yeah.
that are very, very hardly disrupted by AI. Exactly. It's mostly things that I mean, you sell coffee, right? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's not that changed that so much,
Hmm.
but things that are ground less fluid, Luftgeschäft, call it less air business.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
you think technology companies and SaaS companies are like
I'm done for, toasted.
kind of done for in a way. Think about it. Every huge SaaS company, you can actually put a vertical AI agent company right next to it, because
Hmm.
SaaS sort of optimize how teams work. AI agent can actually annihilate the teams.
Just do the whole thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, interesting. No, you have some good perspective. I'm glad this is interesting. I'm thinking about like drone factories and brushless motor systems and like
Uh-huh.
real world businesses, like you said, like maybe they might have AI robots working in the factory, but it's at least still producing something tangible. I think food is probably more resilient though.
Yeah,
Coffee, like you
exactly.
said. Yeah.
Go and grow corn.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be okay.
All right, I'll see you in Iowa.
Iowa, is that the potato or that's Idaho?
Idaho's
Idaho
potato.
is that.
Iowa, Nebraska, the
Right.
Nebraska corn huskers. There's a lot of corn all and nothing else.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm like new to this place, so
We'll see. They're welcome. Um, what made you decide to come here? Was it like the work environment, funding, just the U.S. is amazing?
Generally speaking, you can really build a proper American company without, in my view, it's specifically in what we do, without being in America.
I think that's fair.
This relates to a few technical things, starting with time differences, right? And the way
Yeah.
you actually work and function. And obviously, the vets is a very operational company, right? So you have to see the doctors, see the teams, see the cars, go to
Well,
the
and it's also regulated in the US with US regulations.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. And it's a state by state, stuff like that.
Mm,
The other thing, which is less technical, and I think it's very crucial, and this is my personal advice to people that are trying to do it. It doesn't matter from Israel, it can be from anywhere in the world. In the US, there is a unique element of culture that is extremely hard to understand if you don't live here. And now it's not like if you speak to enough Americans on corporate value, you'll get it. You need to shop at Whole Foods and see how people talk to you and talk to customer support about your healthcare, which I just did for 20 minutes, for example, and I understand the absurdity of this industry and
uh-huh.
how people, how people behave in the East Coast versus the West Coast versus in Texas.
Uh-huh.
That element of understanding and living
And how we drive 15 minutes to everywhere, even and don't even think twice about it.
correct and yeah, yeah, a lot of things. And it's amazing how the U.S. is so state by state.
Yes.
Competing in America, but it's America is very different from every
Yeah.
place you go, in my experience. And I think that's
Well,
important to understand it in order to be able to be um, to be better at this. I can tell you like a short example.
it's like immersion to learn a language. Like you also learn so much just being in the culture about the language, about how people talk about stuff, you know. I lived in Istanbul for a couple of years and I can't say it in Turkish, but there's like a Turkish saying that's like you look like you ate and forgot to shit. And it's like they're just calling you got a little chubby, basically. And I was born in California, lived there to university here, and then went back to California.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was migrating to a different country. Even the facilities to get your driver's license have a different name. Like, and it's just crazy. Even being from there and then going somewhere else and coming back, you don't realize we're not the same at all.
Yeah, yeah. It's also given the huge distances between places, even within California, LA is so different than San Francisco. And where
Hmm.
I am, which is an hour plus north of San Francisco, is so different from San Francisco itself. And
Well, and even the valley versus the mountains where you are.
it's very
Yeah.
nuanced and it's very interesting. And I think you need to understand that in order to be more effective in your communication with America. And I think generally speaking, you sort of after a while you kind of calibrate the discussions. Like if somebody in the U.S. tells you this is interesting, let me have a think. You need to calibrate it. You'll never hear from him again in a way, right?
Right, right, right.
Just a polite, very kind way to say, it's not for me. In Israel, you would have a much more straightforward answer, like, hey, this is nonsense. It's not going to happen, stuff like that. Again, we're talking in general and obviously generalizing, but
Do you see it as good or bad or just different?
I think, again, if you calibrate, it doesn't matter because you understand. And I think it's not necessarily a matter of a lack of honesty. I think it's a matter of a culture.
It's just the communication style.
It's also kindness. People don't want to tell you this is nonsense or bullshit. I think they assume that you understand it. You can read between the lines. Okay, okay, so you guys have
There's a Texasism that's like when you hear a woman say, bless your heart, that really means like the middle finger, essentially.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
super interesting. Yeah, I haven't actually talked with someone who's thought deeply about that, but I agree with that a lot, actually, especially when I went to Turkey and then I was in Spain for a bit. Like, you just don't know what you don't know until you're there.
Correct. Look, I also living in London for 3+ years, and
Uh-huh.
wife is German.
Uh-huh.
It's super interesting the connection between the background of countries and their history and how people act in a way. I'll give you like a random example. Say you're an extremely cold climate country. Okay. Historically, if you wouldn't plan accordingly, you would die in the winter because you don't have food. So that creates a culture that's better planners. right? They go into the details and they don't assume anything about the future. They have to plan. Otherwise, evolutionary wise, culturally, they wouldn't
You're
survive
gone.
that type of
Yeah.
that. And if you're in a warm climate and it's all good and you can pick up a mango, whatever you want from the tree, then you don't really necessarily plan ahead so much.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so all these things kind of, they add
I have
up.
a good friend in Thailand who says that there's just food everywhere, so you don't have to think about it. It's just growing in the trees.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. That's exactly it. Um, and how it connects specifically to America, East Coast, West Coast. I haven't. I don't have a like a philosophy around that, but I can definitely think that the culture historically of nations affects how people act day after day. Speaking about veterinary services and the vets, this is also in a way connects another like weird offshoot about that is to the breeds of dogs, right? There
Hmm.
are shepherds and there are guard dogs and there are pulling Eskimos, and that breed needs to run 5K a day or they will lose their mind. That breed like is okay to sit still and be very vigilant and hearing, and that breed needs to run around and herd sheep, and that creates the culture of the dog, and you need to train it.
Interesting. Interesting. How do you think about the vet space in general now? It seems like I have a dog. She's on the older end, and she's on like thyroid meds, and she's had her ACL replaced, and still doing all right. But probably when my grandparents had dogs, that dog would maybe not be here anymore, you know?
Yeah,
And now we're spending what 40 billion plus a year on pet stuff.
yeah, easily.
Uh,
Or $500 million in last Halloween on dog costumes. Uh,
Wild.
Wild, completely wild. Look, I think that again, the story of why it reached that point relates a lot about to the specific generation's view about family, what is family, and what are we like? Do people look at the
See,
average?
all this is too honest. You're not American yet. This is all very straightforward. You can't say in California, "Oh, people have dogs so they don't have babies." Like, but it's
I don't know.
true. It's true, I think.
Look, I mean, sorry to say, yeah, I'm against
Yeah.
this, like, not to say what to say. I think if it's kind of
No,
a
I agree with you.
proper
I'm making a
discussion to
joke.
have,
Yeah.
and if
I
somebody
agree. I
offended,
100% agree with you.
then
Yeah.
it's on him, right?
Yeah.
But the fact is, and I think that's factual, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the average size of household has decreased significantly in the
Mhm.
past 10, 20, 30 years, and people have less kids. By the way, architecture-wise, the sizes of the rooms in houses, right? The living room and the kitchen used to be big, and the rooms of the kitchen used to be small, and now they're building it differently because people spend less time together and spend more time alone in the rooms. You can say like direct, immediate, direct effect of social media and this poisonous thing that's horrible to humanity, but that's a different topic. And generally speaking, so that sort of movement into pets being a part of a family, which is connected to this mega trend of the pet humanization.
Uh-huh.
And with pet humanization, you want to spend more money and time on your pets. And as you said, like the dog from 2 generations ago would have not made it, but today there's a lot of efforts to keep them around, which is great. And that catapulted an entire industry of pet care that's like booming.
Well, and it's not cheap either.
Not cheap.
Every visit, I should actually look at using you guys for my dog because I hate the vet is always like when you're taking it into the vet and you
Yeah.
gotta wait like the whole experience is just not great.
Hell, the clinic experience is extremely negative experience, and home pet care is the future in many, many ways. Um, Look, the environment for the pet itself, even the doctor and the owner is so much different in their natural environment. It's just a calmer place. Even the vitals are different. Like the pets, when they go to the clinic, they know they're entering a medical facility. They just know it. They feel it. And they're also in the lobby, and everything's okay until it's not, because there's another dog there. They're okay, but then something happens. It's all very triggering. If we go back to a bit of the woke terms we did.
But yeah, as soon as my dog See, like, I don't even know how she knows. Like, how do you know? We're not even inside yet.
Yeah, yeah, they know. White gown syndrome, I think it's called, or I don't know how to translate it, but they just see it and they know
They
this.
smell it too, probably, like
Yeah,
the fear pheromones or something.
animals of previous animals, for sure. By the way, in a lot of exam rooms within medical facilities, it's the same exam room for cats and dogs, which also triggers them a bit. There's an entire philosophy called fear free that's focused on making this experience much more calm and separating the rooms and the colors of the uniform the medical team wears and putting lavender in different places. It's an entire world. Again, it developed because of this pet humanization and the need to be much more calm.
Do you when you guys were first sending like vets into the home, do they do things differently, or is it just inherently calmer because the dog's at home or the pet's at home?
Yeah, I think that very, very naturally, since the environment is much calmer and everybody's much more chilled, there's chance to do things in a much more professional and accommodating way to everybody, by the way.
Mhm.
It's also the client's ability to ask questions, to understand. Think about it that when you go to see a pet at their home, you're seeing it in its natural environment. You see where they sit. You see, if there's stuff that freaks the dog out, you wouldn't see it when they go to the clinic, but you would see it if there's fleas or they sleep in a disgusting area. And understanding that is a big deal. So yeah,
Yeah, I could see it similar to like elder care, where like, oh, you go over and you realize they're not eating food, you know?
right. I
Yeah.
think generally,
Hmm.
by the way, there's a lot of analogies between pediatricians and veterinarians in the way that pets are they're asymptomatic. They can't tell you where it hurts. Same with the young kids. There's like this tree persona sort of situation, right? You have like the client, the patient, and the caregiver, and same with the pets. So there's a lot of things that are interesting to look at. When you really want to do pet care good, I think it's interesting to look at amazing pediatricians and to see what they do, and how they approach the problem.
Uh-huh. Right. Especially because now pets are the kids.
In a way, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
By the way, beautiful. It's beautiful that they are the kids, but pets are kids that never grow up. So,
Yes, it's like a permanent toddler.
right, it's a parent toddler. Also, with the love they have for them, and how you need to care for them, and the fact that they remain asymptomatic, they would never be able to tell you where it hurts.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, my dog's been through the ringer, but she's still going. Well, no, this was really great. We're about to wrap up on time. Is there anything you wanted to say or chat about before we go? Before I
Nothing,
stop record?
nothing.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you joining. And thank you again. This has been Dori Fussmann, an Israeli American entrepreneur who founded the Vets and is working on new AI, so unstoppable by AI companies.
Okay.
Or growing corn. All
Yeah,
right.
exactly. Thank you.